Hello, everybody. This is Paul with Torah Life Ministries, and we are up to 2nd John chapter 1. This whole book is only one chapter, and we did the introduction. If you didn't see that, go back and check that out. We're going to open up in prayer here, found in Deuteronomy 6:4-9, the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Baruch Shem Kibo Mahuto Leolam Vaed. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our Elohim, Yahweh is one. And you shall love Yahweh with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And have these words which I command you this day be upon your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you retire and when you rise. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and upon your gates. Okay, so reading here, 1 John, in verse 1, it says, "This letter is from John the elder. I am writing to the chosen lady and to her children, whom I love in truth, as does everyone who knows the truth." And the note here starts off, it says, "The elder is John of Yeshua's 12 disciples, and the writer of the Gospel of John, 3 letters, and the book of Revelations." This letter was written shortly after 1 John to warn about false teachers. The situation to the chosen lady and to her children could refer to a specific woman or a church whose identity is no longer known. John may have written this from Ephesus. And for verse 1 in the Hebraic root scripture, it says this letter is either written to the lead congregation or simply a letter to the congregation as a whole. And then in the One New Man Bible, it says written 96 AD. It says this lady could be a certain person, or it could be a general letter to one or more of the congregation, since the Greek word ecclesia, translated congregation, is a feminine noun. Lady could be a reference to a congregation. So those are some ideas on verse 1 in terms of where we sit here with this. So then verse 2 reads, "Because the truth lives in us and will be with us forever." And the notes here for 1 and 2 say, it says, John wrote this second letter, which probably fit on one sheet of papyrus, to warn believers against inadvertently supporting false teachers. Number of the degenerate evangelists and teachers had grown by the end of the first century. Mixed with legitimate missionaries were others who were promoting heretical ideas about Yeshua and the gospel. Little has changed in 2,000 years. Advocates of unorthodox beliefs still exist and still attempt to confuse and deceive the people of Yahweh. This letter, 2 John, should serve as a wake-up call to believers to be alert, to be careful, to be solely grounded in the faith. Are you prepared to recognize false doctrine? And when we ask this question, I look at Christianity today, and it's promoting false doctrine. And this is John's own words. And he told everyone in the previous book, follow the commandments of our Creator. So verse 3 says mercy, and it says grace, mercy, and peace, which come from Yahweh the Father and from Yeshua the Messiah, the Son of the Father, will continue to be with us who live in truth and love. How happy I was to meet some of your children and find them living according to the truth, just as the Father commanded. And the note here says the truth is the truth about Yeshua the Messiah, as opposed to the lies and the false teachers. John refers to the truth 5 times in the first 4 verses of this brief letter, in contrast to so many in our culture who dogmatically deny or obscurely define it according to personal preferences. Your truth is truth, and my truth is my truth. John declared the existence of absolute Yahweh is that ultimate standard by which all else can be judged. Yahweh is true. His words and ways are true, and whatever or whoever counteracts or opposes him is false, deception, and dangerous. Christian leaders, teachers, and parents must engage now in a difficult but critical battle for the truth. To paraphrase a family saying, all that is required for deception to triumph is for people of the truth to do nothing. Begin an international campaign to teach those under you how to care to distinguish between truth and error. So that was verse 3 and 4. And verse 5 reads, I am writing to remind you, dear friends, that we should love one another. This is not a new commandment, but one we have had from the beginning. And verse 6 reads, love means doing what Yahweh has commanded us, and has commanded us to love one another, just as you have from the beginning. So the note here for 5 and 6 says the statement that Christians should love one another is reoccurring in the renewed covenant theme. Yet, love for one's neighbor is an old command, first appearing in the third book of Moses, Leviticus 19, verse 18. We can show love in many ways: by avoiding prejudice and discrimination, by accepting people, by listening, helping, giving, serving, and refusing to judge. Knowing Yahweh's command is not enough. We must put it into practice, doing what Yahweh has commanded us. And that's for verses 5 and 6. Now, verse 6 in the Hebraic root scripture says, two overlying themes in all of the Apostle John's letter is love and obedience, which do not counteract each other, but go hand in hand. And then we read verse 7, and verse 7 says, I say this because many deceivers has gone out into the world and deny that Yeshua came in a real body. Such a person is a deceiver and antichrist. And the note here says, in John's day, many false teachers taught that spirit was good and matter was evil. Therefore, they reasoned that Yeshua could not have been both God and man. In strong terms, John warns against this kind of teaching. Many false teachers still promote an understanding of Yeshua that is not biblical. These teachers are dangerous because they distort the truth and undermine the foundations of the believer's faith. They may use right words, but change their meanings. The term translated deceivers can also be translated imposters. It carries the idea of leading another astray. Notice that the verse refers to many such charlatans and pretenders. The great danger of deceitful leaders is that they seem so sincere and believable. They are not easy to spot in a crowd. Usually they are winsome and attractive. Otherwise, how would they gather people to themselves? We do not want to become paranoid or suspicious about everyone we meet, but we need to be wise in evaluating the character and conduct of those who would seek to influence people. The way your teachers live shows a lot about what they believe about Yeshua. And then in the One New Man Bible, verse 7 reads, the note says the Greek word anti originally meant instead of. So the primary meaning of anti-Messiah refers to anyone or anything in each Christian life that displaces Messiah or is an impostor who claims to be Messiah. In the geographic sense, any means against the opposite. Later, anti came to mean against. And then in the Hebraic root scriptures for verse 7, it says, John is dealing with the same Gnostic false belief that Yeshua did not come to earth born of a virgin and fleshly human being. So this is not something that was just exclusive back then. People still talk like this today. and always will. This is why these warnings are still powerful today. Verse 8 reads, "Watch out that you do not lose what we have worked so hard to achieve. Be diligent so that you receive your full reward." And then note in verse 8 says, to receive your full reward refers to not to salvation, but to the rewards of loyal service. All who value true and persistently hold to what will win their full reward. Those who live for themselves and justify their self-centeredness by teaching false doctrines will lose that reward. This is for verse 8. Verse 9 goes on to read, anyone who wanders away from this false teaching has no relationship with Yahweh. But anyone who remains in the teaching of Yeshua has a relationship with both the Father and the Son. And that's verse 9. And then we read in verse 9 in the Hebraic root scriptures, the note says, to say that Yahweh the Father is the same being as Yeshua the Son is a false doctrine and hearsay according to John, and it is the spirit of the anti-Messiah. Now, that's I don't necessarily agree or disagree with that note, but they do a great job explaining Yeshua is both the Father and the Son. So I have a teaching on that on my site. So we have to get that and see that. So we have Yahweh the Father and Yahweh the Son. And that explains that. But that's verse 9, and it's scripturally based, a teaching that I did on that, if you could check that out. Now, verse 10 says, if anyone comes to your meeting and does not teach the truth about Yeshua, don't invite that person into your home or give any kind of encouragement. So this is verse 10. So verse 10, the note here says, John instructs believers not to show hospitality to false teachers. They were to do nothing that would encourage the heretics in their propagation of falsehoods. In addition, if believers were to invite them in, such action would show that they were approving of what the false teachers said and did. John is condemning the support of those who are dedicated to opposing the true teachings of Yeshua, not condemning hospitality to unbelievers. John adds that a person who supports a false teacher in any way shares that teacher's evil work. So this is for verse 10. And there's another note here for verse 10 that says, false teaching is serious business, and we dare not overlook it. It is so serious that John wrote this letter to warn against it, because our world has so many false teachings. We may be tempted to take many of them lightly. Instead, we should realize that the dangers of these poise and actively refuse to give hearsays to any foothold. So we should realize the dangers and poise any actively refusal to give hearsay any foothold. And then in the Hebraic root script, verse 10, it says, it was a customary for believers to bless each other when they greeted one another. Many early congregations also met in homes. John is commanding that if someone brings a doctrine that is in the place of the doctrine of Messiah, that such a one should not be greeted with a blessing and should also not be allowed into the home of the fellowship either. So that was for verse 10. Verse 11 reads, anyone who encourages such people to become a partner becomes a partner in evil work. And then John's final words here in this book. It was a short book today. His final words, verse 12. I have much more to say, but I don't want to do it with paper and ink. For I hope to visit soon and talk with you face to face. Then our joy will be complete. And here it says here in the One New Bible, the Greek word here is arthruth, referring to sheet and paper made from papyrus. The ink is black, made from lamp black and gum. And then finally, 13 says, greetings from the children of your sister, chosen by Yahweh. And it says this could be, the note here in the One Room Bible says this could be a sibling or another congregation. And then finally, in the Hebraic root scripture, it says, John was given a greeting from a sister congregation of a fellow believers, probably due to the persecution going on at the time to believers. He is writing in somewhat of a concealed manner. Okay, so that is our scriptural reading here today. That's 2 John. Put your comments and questions below, and thank you for reading the word with me. Until then, everybody have a blessed day. Yahweh be with you, and shalom, shalom.